If anyone's afraid of reaching out for help, what would you say your experience has taught you about that?
It is lifesaving. It can put your life back on a course where it needs to go if it's not.
Welcome to the Mental Space, the podcast that brings you human stories about how we live with our mental health every day. Now, today I'm joined by a man who has been Santa's elf. He's been an outdoor educationalist. He has been a keen runner and run ultra marathons, but has now been in Dubai 11 years, added to getting used to life here in Dubai. And over the past 12 months, he's been remarkably honest about his experience with mental health and depression. So it's a real pleasure to welcome Sam Browning onto the Mental Space podcast today. Sam, thank you for being here. You're an incredibly courageous man, because I've heard you speak before about your challenges over the past 12 months. But take us all, a bit like Marvel superheroes. Give us your origin story, a bit of your background.
A bit of the origin story. Well, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Big fan of all your work. And you and I have spoken about it a lot before, but any time this topic is discussed is a good thing. So we should do more often. So to shine the light on me, shall we say, I've been in Dubai 11 years, originally from the UK, moved out here to be an outdoor education instructor. I worked with a lot of schools where my wife, we got married here, and 2 kids here. So Dubai is home for us. I currently work in healthcare. I look after recruitment for one of the biggest healthcare groups here in the region. And whilst I've been a frequent user of them, I never really thought that I would potentially need them for my mental health.
Absolutely.
Which is an odd thing to think about, because if you hurt your leg running, as I often tend to do, then you go and see a doctor to get painkillers. But it took me a while to figure out that actually maybe my head needed to be looked after as well.
So, look, on the surface level, anyone looking at Sam would be saying, okay, so he's got a beautiful wife, beautiful kids, successful job, here in Dubai, lovely home, seems to have it all. But what was going on under the surface? And when did you begin to see that, feel inside perhaps something wasn't right?
So a couple of years ago, about a year after I started my running journey, I set myself a goal of running a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, and a marathon. And after I did that and picked up the 4 medals, which I've got framed in my office, as I looked at them, I realized I felt nothing towards them. I felt no emotion, no pride, no joy, nothing towards them. And that was a bit odd, to be surrounded by people that are doing incredible things, but to feel no pride in myself having done them. So in that time, I looked into seeing a therapist to get a better understanding of what, on a surface level, I realized is that there was a disconnect from my emotional part of myself, shall we say. And due to stuff that happened into childhood, we didn't go too much into it at the time. I sort of left it, kind of got an answer, but didn't. Fast forward a year and a half, I've trained, my kids are getting older, and whilst not the catalyst, what became apparent is that, as you will know as a dad, and as many others will, once your kids get to certain ages, mine are 5 and 8, they start asking more of you. Not necessarily financially or physically, but
That comes.
it does come.
How about older kids? That comes.
That comes, I think. I really look forward to that one then. But emotionally, they ask more of you. And I was really starting to struggle to connect with them, to be quote unquote present with them when they're here. I felt very much like a passenger. And it spiraled for too long, really. And it was probably a period of 3 or 4 months at the beginning of last year where things started to get really dark. I was unhappy at home. I was unhappy at work. I lost motivation to run anymore, which was my passion. I didn't want to be around friends. I didn't want to spend time with the people that I loved. It was just all becoming too much for me.
Tell me a little bit more. And I think this is sometimes that people, how did you recognize that spiral, even when you began to experience that spiral? Is that almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way that you're aware of it? No, I shouldn't be feeling this way. And then you begin to feel guilty about feeling that way. And then that adds more pressure on you. What was that spiral experience for you like?
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, it is very much like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I would drive to work and be crying in the car because I didn't want to be doing anything. I'm struggling to get up in the morning. The story that, you know, one of the most prominent ones is I took my kids to school. I dropped them off at the classroom, and the teacher asked me why I had bought my youngest daughter's swimming kit instead of PE kit, because they changed from swimming to PE, and I bought the wrong thing. Now, she was fine. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
She was absolutely fine, but I had to almost run back to the car and sat for 25 minutes crying because I felt utterly worthless that I'd done something so horrific in my own mind. And when you're in that sort of headspace, something that insignificant, you know, can send you down that road, and you do feel guilty. You start burying it, and I'm a very outgoing person. I always have been, and so I didn't want to be around anybody and things like that. And it just got to the stage where, as you said, this doesn't feel good. You know, I'm actively pulling away from the people that I love, and it took a lot of courage to say, I just seriously need to go and see somebody. But it got to the stage where I didn't see any way. I wouldn't say it got as dark as it could have. Yeah, I couldn't see any way to get better. I couldn't see any way to move through it.
Now, did you kind of like self-diagnose that? Was it you that eventually went, or, you know, had your wife commented, tried to talk, perhaps you weren't hearing? What was, because she'd have obviously must have seen the sound that she knew 12 months ago wasn't the sound that was sitting in front of her. So how did you get to that kind of, that inflection point where it was, but this I need to take control, or this I need to do something about?
I mean, I recognised it myself, if I'm honest. I mean, yes, my wife knows differences. Probably the kids did, my friends did. But it was me that kind of got down to brass tacks and said, I need help here. I need something to be done to myself.
Having made that decision, which is a powerful decision, not an easy decision, how difficult, easy was it then to start that process of finding a therapist? And what was your experience of therapy like? Just take me back to how you were feeling, 10 minutes before you got called into that first therapist's office. What were you expecting, and what was it?
Yeah, it's a good one. So, I mean, as I said, I work for a healthcare organization, and so we have an incredible insurance package that covers us within our company, which is great. We have wonderful people working for us. But as anybody that has explored therapy will understand, is thinking about it, there is an innate need to feel comfortable with the person you're talking to, whatever that might look like to you. Now, as I was looking through the doctors that we had working for us, there was nobody that jumped out to me. So I asked for recommendations from people I trust within our company, and I ran into a few roadblocks, shall we say. The first person I wanted to speak to was busy for the next 4 months. The other person that I was recommended to speak to was based in Abu Dhabi, and so we would do a video consultation, but then I worked up the courage to have that call, and 10 minutes before the call, I got a phone call to say this session is going to cost you X amount of dirhams. And that's what I thought, this is covered on the shirt. No, because it's a video consultation. So if I was in person, it would be free, but online. So, I
because at that point, what you want is red tape and bureaucracy.
So look, I don't think, it is what it is, the process. But I mean, I was in the office at the time, actually. It just broke down in tears because I was so ready to have a conversation, tell somebody about it, and it felt like the rug had been pulled out under me. And so in the end, I just literally booked an appointment with the next available professional I could see. And it wasn't a great first experience, if I'm honest. It was somebody that diagnosed me, asked me a few questions, was not very personable, told me that, it was depression, and he recommended I go into antidepressants, as well as recommending a number of different therapies, avenues, but I didn't really feel great after it, shall we say. It was good to have a label.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It was good to know that what I was feeling was not abnormal, is something, and that there is a way out, shall we say, or there is a process to follow. And then sort of I went away and did a lot of research myself. understood actually what our antidepressants were, the pills looked like, what other avenues, because I don't want to be medicated or these sort of things. And so it took me a while, but then fortunately the first person that I was looking to speak to actually became
We've been recommended.
and became available. And so I managed to get in with her. And we had a great session, and then she said, I'm going on leave for 2 months. But I mean, I don't blame any vegans or anybody, but it's one of the world. And so once I got back from the summer travels and she got back, I started seeing her every week, and have been seeing her since, I think, early September.
So take us inside the therapist's office a little bit. Not to go into specifics, but how has she helped you? How did you feel going into that? Because I imagine that, there must be some nervousness, if not absolute downright anxiety about, particularly as you've been there once before, it perhaps wasn't the experience that you wanted. They'll be walking you to our office. What was that first session like? What did it give you?
Wow, trying to cast my mind back. It was tough, if I'm honest. It was really hard because I was so ready to try and get a solution to a problem that I'm facing right now. And what became apparent through talking to her was actually, as with most things when it comes to mental health, is what I'm dealing with right now with the depression is a side effect of what's going on in my brain. But it was the underlying root cause was caused by something that happened in my childhood. And that knocked me for six, because I couldn't believe that something from so long ago actually have an impact on what was happening to me day to day. And so, she kind of helped me understand that in order for us to work on where I am today, first we need to identify and discover and figure out what happened. And then what I will say is it was nothing traumatic. It was nothing dangerous or bad on those lines. So that was a good thing. I say quote unquote good thing compared to what it could have been. But it meant I sort of left going, I just wanted an answer. You know what I mean? I wanted somebody to give me a magic wand and go, oh no, it's all fixed now, you'll be fine. But actually it was going to take quite a while to go back and identify things and try and fix my perception of myself. And what I will say is over the months, I learned an incredible amount about myself and a lot of why I am the way I am and where it's come from. And, when we bring things up and I'd say things and I remember memories or actions when I'm around the kids or my wife or friends or at work, and I'd say I did this and she was like, okay, but can you not see the parallels to why? It was the first time really I'd ever sort of investigated that.
What's that then giving you as you kind of navigate daily life now that, what have you learned about yourself? Have you changed any particular behaviors, or is it you just more aware of those behaviors?
So initially it was a lot more awareness of things, but I really struggled. I used to have good days and bad days in the sense that something could knock me out for an entire day if it was bad, or I wouldn't want to get up. And so then the idea was to transition to to have good or bad moments, shall we say, and to be able to identify those moments and why they may affect me. And what she helped me understand is that there is a circle. So it's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. So if you have a negative thought, it leads to a negative emotion, a negative behavior, emotion and behavior. And it reinforces itself if it's negative. Whereas if you have a positive thought, it leads to a positive emotion, leads to a positive behavior. And so mine was blocked because it was all negative all the time, constantly. I couldn't pull myself out of it. And it took going back and figuring out and changing my perception of where things were previously in the past to make me able to say, no, I can consciously have a positive thought now, or change, or identify when I may have a negative thought, but not let it get to a negative emotion to then become negative behavior, if that makes sense. To try and in the moment be more consciously aware of it and say, no, how can I change this? How can I be, not necessarily how can I make this suddenly positive, but what's the silver lining? It might still be negative. Everybody has negative thoughts.
I mean, one thing I think we don't give enough credit to, or we're not aware of. There seems to be so much pressure on us these days to be on and all right all the time. And even people that are not struggling with mental health are not going to have great days every day, 365. There seems to be this almost pressure to be happy all the time, and it's just not realistic. What have you learned about literally daily life? I mean, I've heard you speak before, and we've had conversations before as well. You very sort of eloquently described what it's like to live with depression on a daily basis. And if you have no objection, I'd like you to repeat that. We've had that conversation, but just so people listening can have an understanding and perhaps recognize, I feel the same way.
Yeah, so I think the analogy you mean is, if you imagine you have a weighted blanket and you have it thrown over you at all times throughout the day and night, and it's ever so slightly weighted. So it's not, depending on the levels, for me, it wasn't super heavy, but it could be. And whenever you want to do something, whether that's wake up in the morning, have a shower, talk to your kids, go for a walk, watch TV, eat, spend time with friends, the first thing you're met with is resistance inside your own head.
Yeah.
Now, that's not necessarily debilitating resistance, but it is automatic resistance, which means that in order to do even the basic things, you have to make a conscious fight to want to do it. And so you spend all of your time and energy focusing on which are the things that I need to spend my time doing today. What do I need to fight for?
Yeah.
You know, I had 2 kids. Every morning they had to get up and go to school.
I could do that.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, I have to get up and I have to work.
Yeah.
You know, I have to eat. All of these sort of things have to be done. So therefore, I have to focus effort on it, even though it takes, some days, a lot of work. And what people don't realize is it's exhausting. Like, it's really exhausting because, like you said, there's often this pressure for us to be on and okay all the time. And when you're not, and you have to pretend to be, it is exhausting. I get tired all the time. You know, my wife is a teacher. She works long hours. She works incredibly hard, and it comes home to our kids. And so her evenings are sacred. You know, we sit and watch TV together. And over, the past few months, I put the kids to bed and I say, so I'm going to bed. Because as much as I want to spend time with her and sit, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And in order to have any sort of, this wasn't even taken into account exercise because I wasn't doing any. Let alone trying to find the energy and motivation to go out and do that. And so what I have found is that over the past 6 months, that blanket has got lighter. I wouldn't say it's gone, but it's definitely got lighter.
What's made the blanket lighter? Has it been therapy? Has it been lifestyle changes? Is it an awareness that the blanket's there? So you're learning to live with the blanket and perhaps make strategic decisions about where you deploy your energy, as opposed to just trying to fight against that blanket all day.
Yes. Blanket statement, yes to it. Blanket.
I suppose it's a statement when it's really a question.
Pun intended. No, it was everything. You know, it was medication, it was therapy, it was starting to get back into exercise and looking after diet. It was becoming much more aware of what was going on, what I was feeling, when I was feeling it. Being more vocal, communicative with my family. When I can find myself maybe being triggered by something, I would often say, I need 15 minutes. And I'd go off for a walk, I'd come back, because then it stops it at that time. It doesn't let me get further down. And so when I say the blanket gets lighter, it's still there, but I'm now better equipped. I have better tools to live with it.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I mean, this is a clumsy, not even comparison, but I was watching a documentary with Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Isn't it great?
It is brilliant.
But what you were saying to me reminded me of the episode where they put him in the suit that simulates an old age. And for the first day, all he's doing is fighting against the suit. He's trying to do everything the way he would normally do.
Yeah.
And it takes him a while to accept that actually he can't do everything, and actually to almost like work with the suit and choose where he deploys his energy in any given space. And that's from a physical and a mental aspect. But it's almost the analogy that you remind me when you say that, which is like, okay, it's here, and I can't fight against it. I have to accept it. And how important has acceptance been to you? That actually it's there, whether the label is mental health, whether the label is depression, or whether it's a part of SAD, and you've had to accept now that is a part of SAD. How difficult a journey is that bit?
I think, like you said at the beginning, I've been very open and honest to those that know. You know, it's not a label that I spread across my chest and walk around all the time, but it is something that I live with. I try. At the beginning, it was very much at the forefront in everything that was going on, and I would often use it as a barrier to say, well, I can't do this because I'm struggling with depression, and that's got less and less as time has gone. I've got used to it, and so now it is what it is. You know, I'm very happy to have conversation with people and be open and honest and talk about my struggles. You know, even you and I having this conversation today, like, I know we've been planning it for a while, but today's been a good day, you know, and I've been over since the end of last year through Christmas and, you know, through January, it's been very good for me. And so I thought, well, actually, what am I going to talk about? You know, can I remember how bad it's, you know what I mean? Like, but actually just saying, yeah, there are bad things, but good things as well. And so it's a label I wear. As you want to call it, I wear it comfortably. It is what it is. It's hopefully it's getting better. It has got better, and it will get better even more so. But what makes it better is understanding it, accepting it, and having the tools to work with it as opposed to against it.
Now, you are not a singularly brave individual, but you are a brave individual because you're choosing to talk about this. And you have spoken about this in your recent past. There is still this big stigma that's out there. But when you actually kind of confronted this stigma and decided to talk openly about this, what was the reaction? Because we often think, it seems that people feel that it's just them and they are alone in this. And yet the minute you have the conversation, you open your eyes and you actually know it's almost everybody. What's your experience and what's the reaction been to you?
I mean, nothing but positive, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah.
I mean, genuinely, there has been nothing but goodwill, understanding, a lot of great communication with other people. They are struggling with something similar. And I've actually, you know, when I recorded a podcast previously and it came out, and the amount of people that reached out to me and said, that sounds really familiar. You know, maybe I didn't frame it in the right way, or I know what you're going through, or I'm going through something similar. And maybe they went and got help because they heard somebody, you know, relate to it. I don't know. Yeah, somebody they know talk about it. And I didn't choose to talk about it because I wanted to help somebody else. I'm not choosing to talk to you today because I want to become an influencer in mental health. I'm doing a great job on that. But if it does mean that somebody thinks twice, or checks in with a friend, or recognizes something in themselves or others that could help, and that's a fantastic thing. But I mean, the community around me, my family, my friends, it's been nothing but positive.
I often feel that, you know, when we're confronting these difficult situations, challenges, that it's, you know, and I've been there myself, that it's the fear of the thing than the thing itself sometimes. And if anyone's afraid of reaching out for help, afraid of talking, what would you say your experience has taught you about that?
Firstly, it's lifesaving in a number of ways, to actually have conversations. When I say lifesaving, I don't mean it will save your life from mortal harm, but it can put your life back on a course where it needs to go if it's not. It is scary the first time you want to put it out there. And so what I would say is, how you address it and how you talk about it can be down to you. it doesn't necessarily have to follow. This is the thing I learned most, is it doesn't have to follow the conventional routes. You don't have to go to see a psychiatrist if you don't want to. The first step can be just going for a walk with a friend or having a coffee. You don't even have to talk about the struggles you're going through, but go and meet with somebody, or talk with somebody you trust, you feel comfortable with, and just talk. And as you get more comfortable, you can talk a little bit more and you can get it out. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a doctor that you see first or a professional.
Well, your experience as long as proof of shot. The first diagnosis was, you're depressed, here's some tablets, take the tablets.
Yes.
That wouldn't have solved all of Sam's problems.
No. But what I learned is, I went away and did the research.
Yeah.
I went away and looked into all of those things. But that was combined with people around me caring, that said, look, let's go for a chat. But then what I would also say is to people listening is, we as a society, we as individuals, need to have more empathy with people that are struggling with it. Now, label or otherwise, it doesn't mean that everybody needs to suddenly go out and be a mental first aider and suddenly start taking down notes or becoming psychologists. But what it means is, if somebody comes to you and says, do you want to go and have a chat? Have a think twice about saying no or cancelling. Or if you do say yes, maybe there's a reason why they want to talk to you specifically. And if that's the case, then you don't have to press them to ask about their mental health, but have in the back of your mind some empathy. Don't push them on the hard questions. Don't try and solve the answers. Men, we are problem solvers by nature. If you come to me with a problem, I'm going to give you an answer. And very often that's not what you want when you're struggling with stuff like this. You kind of just want somebody to listen.
Yeah.
And very often be empathetic and just go, yeah, tough.
I mean, you open the lid on a can of worms there as well, in terms of us as men, because, from my perspective, when I've struggled, and it took my wife to actually sit me down and go, this can't go on. We need to talk about this. It's that fear of being a failure, fear of letting other people down. And we just don't seem to be able to talk in the way we should talk. I've read this book recently to my daughter, which is called something like The Boy, the Horse, the Mole, and the Fox.
Oh, it's a wonderful.
Isn't it absolutely? And the passage that just stood out to me the most was that one where the boy asked the horse, "What's the bravest thing you've said?" And he says, "Help." And as men, I don't know, like, why is it so hard for us to actually have that conversation, with ourselves? Like, for you, why was it so hard for you to have that community? It took so much of the spiral to get to that point. Like, we genuinely need to get better as men at going and opening up and talking to each other about this.
Yeah, I think the landscape has changed.
Yeah.
It has, which is great. You're doing incredible things, and all around the world, people are talking about this more, which is a wonderful thing. But when it comes down to the day-to-day nitty-gritty, it's a lovely thing to think about. But it's actually a lot harder to take that first step and go and get help. Whether that's ingrained in us, whether that's lessons learned from our parents, whether that's societal norms or cultural understandings or whatever that looks like. Often labeling it as mental health is almost a wrong thing to do at the very initial stage for us as men, because we're scared of that. We're scared of that label.
Yeah.
Because of everything that comes with it, right or wrong.
Yeah. Well, weak. Oh, yes. Well, weak. Rather than that has to be the bravest thing. And I think the horse goes on to say, actually asking for help is not giving up. It's actually become a stronger moving forward there. And that's why I say, if you are in that stage, just go and talking to a friend. You don't necessarily have to ask for help to admit weakness or whatever, but to actually just start talking to people is a much better step. And I'm not talking about, and I know there are incredible things I've heard about sitting, men's circles and men's groups and things like that, which are wonderful tools to have, don't get me wrong. But that's not going to work for 80% of men that just are feeling a bit down and maybe just want to go for a walk with somebody. I mean, I've got a friend that somebody that's been going through, he's been very close to me with this, and sometimes I'll feel really bad. And I'll just say, do you want to go for a walk? You'd rather be there in 20 minutes. Yeah.
And we just can't talk, might not necessarily talk about what the problem was. It's just to have somebody there to be with, to walk and to talk with, and you feel better afterwards. And so that's why, it is a stigma that's going around, and that's going to take a long time to change for society. But what can we do as, professionals or as men in this space is talk about it more, but also don't be scared of it. You don't have to go to a friend and say, listen, I've got mental health problems, because that could range from anything to anything. But just spending more time together with people you trust and just talking about anything. It could be football, could be anything at all, with a bit of fun, doing sports, drinking coffees, whatever that looks like. That's the most important thing to help us, because I think once we start talking more, irrespective about what it is, maybe when something does happen, you're already in that space of being open and talking and sharing. Therefore, you feel more comfortable, which will mean that it may not get to the stage where I was at. I may have felt more comfortable reaching out for help earlier.
Now that you are, and this is I don't know if this is a controversial question or I'm going to frame this the right or the wrong way.
Don't lose your listeners.
Now that you are on the flip side of this, so you've gone through this spiral, you've entered therapy, and now there is this unresolved issue from your childhood, which has always been there, and has always been, whether it's been hidden by a mask or whether you've just not been aware of it, it's been bubbling away under the surface. It's always been part of Sam for growing up. Now that that's out in the open, now that whether it call it a demon or whatever it is, do you actually feel better that is now out and you can put strategies in place to deal and move through and perhaps move beyond? Because that's been a tricky time of life. How do you feel about your depression now? Is it in some ways not a gift, but having worked through it? How do you feel about life moving forward now, knowing that that's out?
Yeah. So the stuff that I identified in my past through therapy, I went back, I addressed, I worked through, and I accepted. And so those things don't affect me negatively anymore, which is where the spirals come. Yeah. Now, depression is your brain's way of saying stuff's not working here. Yeah. Now, I'm still dealing with that, but it is now its own thing. That makes sense. Yeah. It started because of unresolved issues. Yeah. Those unresolved issues aren't there anymore, but it doesn't connect some of your brain fix.
You're reasoning back from that's it.
So, I needed to, because I needed to resolve those things. I needed to address them, be aware of them. And it's really interesting to talk about, do you see it as a superpower? But one of the things that actually came, I know what you mean, but I look back through therapy as I was going back and looking at the things, the way that you have to change your perception of the things is, at the moment you did them negatively.
Yes.
Because they're a negative influence on you, so therefore everything that's come from it. And so through therapy, I had to go back and actually address them, look at them and say, right, okay, but what was positive that came out of that? I know it was a bad situation. Yeah. What was the positive that came from it? And what I actually identified is some of my key characteristics, things that make me me and good at what I do in family and life, actually stemmed from that moment. The fact that I'm a very good problem solver, that I'm resilient, that I'm hardworking. All of those things came from those. I'm a very adaptable person. All of those core skills, things that maybe me, came from those moments. Mm-hmm. And so they're my superpowers, because they make me me. And if I hadn't had that experience, will I still have it? I don't know. But what it helped me do is help reinforce that sense of self now, to go, actually, because the other thing that I realized is I had very low self-esteem. Yeah. Because I never talked about it, but I didn't attribute value to myself, and so I didn't feel I was worth anything or added value. So I've come a bit further on that journey now, which is a good thing. But it was saying, well, actually, what value do I add? Actually, all of those things that were positive that I learned from there are my value. Yeah, that is the value that I add to the situations that I'm going. So we talk about superpowers. They're my superpowers. It's almost.
Well, no, I mean, and I've had my self-esteem issues and imposter syndrome pretty much all of my life, and only now I'm beginning to look at it and go, actually, yeah, I'm half decent at that. Actually, I'm half decent at that. And that in a way is, there are certain people out there right now, and we've got friends as well, that don't recognize their own value, that whole self-esteem. We are, and I'm still learning not to seek validation from external people. I've been through that where it's like, I've needed the pat on the head.
Yeah.
Whether it be from my wife, my kids, my bosses, like everybody else, I've had a journey with my employers. Some have been great teachers. Some of them have been even better teachers, even though they've been truly awful to me. That has been a great teaching moment. But that whole part of, I need to be aware of my value. And if I don't believe it, then I'm always going to be beholden to other people's perceptions of me. So in a way, I do think it's a superpower, because there are so many people out there right now, but men and women, men at our age as well. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but we talk about the midlife crisis for men, and it's a genuine thing. There's a physical thing that's happening. It's okay, some of us are developing a bit of a bridge belly and boobs. There is a physical testosterone thing that's happening where we're slowing down, but we're often we're in management positions. We've got people that we're responsible for. We are parents. We have financial pressures, and it can be a lot. It can absolutely be a lot. And if within all of that we don't feel good about ourselves, then that's a really destabilizing position to be in. And that's why it's the amount of guys out there aged between 40 or 49 who were committing suicide is terrifying.
Yeah.
So I really hope that your honesty and conversation can be a point where guys, if you are listening out there, literally just, look in the mirror, have that conversation with yourself, or as you've been saying, go for that walk with a mate, because it's so important to reach out.
It is. And it doesn't have to be a full-blown, I'm in the midst of a mental health crisis, I need to go and get help. But just start tomorrow.
Yeah.
Text a friend, just go and catch up with them for a coffee and just chat about anything. Chat about life, catch up. You just get comfortable talking. We need to get more comfortable talking about everything. I mean, I talk for days, absolutely anything. But I know we're in the minority as opposed to the majority. But that's what needs to happen. Be more comfortable talking with people, but in your daily life, maybe just have a bit more empathy with what's going on around you, because as we always say, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. You also never know what's going on under the surface.
Well, we live in a very comparison obsessed world in a way. We've got Instagram,
keeping up with the Joneses,
particularly in a city like Dubai or like UAE, where there's so much opportunity. There's so much prosperity, there's so much ambition, there's so much opportunity. It's very difficult to know where to where my ambition should stop. And has this experience taught you anything about, okay, let's just take a look around and go, what have I got? Am I grateful for this? Rather than what I haven't got, which tends to be a conversation.
Yeah, I think, your point of extrinsic versus intrinsic motivational praise has always been a big thing for me. That was from a value and self-esteem perspective. And so the likes on Instagram, I know they're muted influencer, but likes on Instagram, the well dones, the kudos on Strava, things like that were important to me. But from all of this, it's become less and less and less and less important. I have a beautiful family, 2 incredibly smart, kind, funny kids, a wonderful wife. I have good friends. I have a lovely lifestyle. I live in an incredible country that gives me an abundance of opportunities, as you said. And fortunately, even though it was a bumpy start, actually the care I needed to get to where I am now. And he's one of the leaders when it comes to actually having these conversations and putting things into place and making it a happier place to be. So I'm very happy with where I am. I'm very happy with my lot, shall we say, and what we've got. And I am content with it. It's not necessarily about chasing what's next or can I get the next rung on the ladder. And being comfortable saying,
this is good right now.
I'm doing pretty good. And pretty good's okay.
That feels like a perfect point to bring this conversation to a close. Sam, thank you very much for joining us on the Mental Space today. Thank you for your bravery in talking about it. Thank you for your friendship. And if anyone's listening and wants to hear more conversations like this, please feel free to subscribe to the Mental Space. Our mission is to normalize the conversation around this, tackle the stigma. You are not alone. And as Sam has bravely said today as well, that if you do feel that you're struggling, just reach out, even if it is just going for that walk. Wise words from Sam. So Sam, thank you again for joining us on the Mental Space.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime.